Welcome to Pro Practice, your guide to piano mastery. I'm Josh Wright, and today's episode is based on the Étude in D-sharp minor, Op.8 No. 12 by Scriabin. Before we get started with today's tutorial, I'll go ahead and play a few bars of the piece in case you're not familiar with it. This piece is extremely difficult, so don't take it lightly. This should not be your first Étude that you play, but it is really fun. It was made quite famous by Horowitz. He loved to play this for encores, and this piece was written in 1894. It's the end of a long set of Études. Some of the challenges of this Étude are a lot of hand redistributions. If you didn't think creatively about this, you might, and a lot of people handle that just fine. I've always said that my technical deficiencies have caused me to be very creative with how I play pieces, and this is no exception. You can do simple hand distributions, redistributing certain notes from one hand to the other, and this piece actually, it's critical that you do that. You can either roll some of these extremely large intervals, or you can simply take them in the other hand. All of my teachers, and especially Sergei Babayan, was a big proponent of that. If you look at Babayan's hands, and he's got some of the world's greatest technique, if not the greatest, I just love his playing. He has quite small hands, but he's able to play any repertoire he wants, and I think from what he's told me, a lot of it has to do with some of the large stretches, has to do with how creative he is with redistributing things between the hands. So we're going to be doing a lot of that. I'm going to show you where I redistribute things in this piece. Additionally, we'll be going over fingering, because sometimes the way you jump to things, students will do very illogical things, or it might seem great in a slow tempo, but as you bring it up to tempo, it starts to become more and more difficult. So we'll be going over that. And of course, as with all pro practice videos, we'll have a heavy focus on interpretation, shaping, voicing, and different strategies to make this as beautiful as possible. That's something that you can never neglect when playing an Étude. Let's go ahead and just get started with some basic fingering. I'll give you the first two or three bars of the fingering that I use, just to kind of show you the strategy that I'm using. So first of all, let's just talk about that. Whenever you're playing 2 octaves quick, this Rachmaninoff, like 3 chords quick like that, I like to think of one motion. So it's down, down, of course, in order to play those keys. You have to play down. But in your mind, you're thinking up. So you could even think down, up. You could even think like a springboard, like a diving board. You're going to dive off of it. You have to go up, down, and then back up. But I like to think of an upward motion. It also gives it a little bit more hammer speed if you do that. And I think that's good. I don't like a busy, heavy texture at the beginning. I like the texture to be stirring, so starting it off bold, and then this is kind of buried in it, and then it emerges out. Something like that. Okay, so I like 5 ones, and then 1, 5, 2, 1, and then move the hand down. 2, 5. A lot of students might be tempted to do this, but then you've got to jump to that. I like to jump there because that's a natural place that it seems to breathe anyway, and then go back down 2, 5, 1. Now here it extends to this. If you've got the hand size, you can play it together. Otherwise, you're going to want to play it rolled. Here's another point of this tutorial. Pedaling is critical. A lot of students, just because this is the way we play 90 or 95% of the piano repertoire that doesn't have large leaps like this, you have to catch the bass in the pedal. So a little strategy, this might be pretty difficult to do in this piece because it's moving so fast, but hold this top note through this pedal change, That way you don't get a hard cut. If you do this, there's a hard cut. There's a silence in there. If you hold that top note through the pedal change, because you've got to catch the pedal, and you can look at my pedal cam down there. If I hold that note and then I can change there and then take just a little bit of time to get to there. That should help. Here's our first redistribution. I never like to start the piece out with missing it. I don't know about you, but that's probably bad style to miss your second octave of the right hand. And you can practice it. It's not that hard if you're an advanced player. But I'm like, why would I risk that? Also, that gives you a little bit more strength to voice that nicely. So, and then I always like this ta-dum, pa-dum, to back off a little bit and then resolve to there. And then less. Maybe that time you do go all the way to there. And then right there, just the single note. And then. So we have 3 ascending figures. And then we have that one. I think you should step those up in levels. It's very tempting in this piece, and you'll hear this in certain recordings where people kind of just pound their way through this entire first page, or at least my first page. This is 17 bars. And then it's like, now I'll give you some relief with some soft material. I think this can be shaped. I don't think that you want to be lacking energy. I actually played this for my teacher a month ago or so. It was just freshly learned. And I said, I just want to bounce a few ideas off of you. And we went through it. And I said, what do you think of this? Really just starting so soft, and she's like, it's an interesting idea, but I think that you need to grab the audience from the opening. So I want you to remember that kind of silly thing that I took to her of starting really, really soft, but I want you to apply that to these. That's level 1. You do not need to go to like a triple forte, like fortissimo there, or triple forte, on your very first one. Maybe you only go up to mezzo forte or forte. And this one you go to a stronger forte, and this one you go all the way. Scriabin only writes forte there, but maybe go to a fortissimo. That way you have 3 distinct steps, okay? Let's go through this very slowly, just those first 10 bars that I originally played, and let's go over any other hand redistributions. And we've gone over pedals so far. We've gone over some of the hand redistributions. We've gone over a little bit of voicing. Just make sure you're focusing on bringing out your tops. With the left hand being this rambunctious and kind of stirring, and it's really easy for that to cover the right hand. Even though the right hand's bold, you want to make sure that that right hand is voiced very nicely. Okay, so let's go slowly. And I always like to make sure you don't rush this material. I find myself doing that sometimes. Like that. And this is a point of stasis that helps momentum be created on this. If you rush through this and you move too quickly, then that just sounds frantic. Whereas if it rests for a second, that creates like a nice inhale for you to then move with this, okay? Here's another redistribution that I like. I go here. So rather than that, I can do. I have huge hands, so if you have tiny hands, 2-to-1 is going to be even more uncomfortable. But even with large hands, I remember playing Mendelssohn's Serious Variations for Sergei Babayan, and I was doing more spread out fingerings. He's like, why would you do that? I was like, well, it doesn't bother my hands. He's like, and yet your hands are still much more relaxed when they're in this position than when they're in a stretched out position. And that was a good lesson that stuck with me ever since then, to make sure that I always try to choose the most compact fingering I can whenever possible. There's plenty of places in this piece we're not going to have a compact hand position, but we'll do our best when we can. So this is bar 3. Take this in the right hand with a 2, so 5-1 to 2, and then the left hand can just step down to a 2 here and grab that 10th with a little bit more ease, okay? In this edition, it has just an octave there. In another edition I looked at, it had that. Unfortunately, Henley does not make a version of this piece, at least that I can find. If you know, please email me. I'd love to get a copy of that, but I don't think they make this an edition for this piece. So we're going off of the best scores I could find. So here's another distribution. Take the 2-1 in the left hand. That way you can just take 2 there. Okay, that's a big stretch, so you got to do your pedal trick there. Now it's up to you if you want to just grab that with a 5 there in the left hand and then reset. It's a pretty big reset anyway, so resetting to here, it's up to you, whatever's more comfortable in your hand. You have a little bit of time as well. One thing that you want to be careful of, I do this quite a bit. I rush those the 16th notes. So you can keep those a little bit more even, because really it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Because that 32nd note rest causes the last note of those 16th notes to be a 32nd note. But if we were just doing 4 straight 16ths, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. It's really not that fast. People have done that as a stylistic element. I love it. I think it sounds really good. It creates a lot of momentum. But don't go insane with it. Don't do, like da-da-da-da-dum, so it's so jagged. Just a little bit. The reason I bring that up is some of these get really tricky to play, and they can be quite difficult. So with that big jump that I was just talking about, it's up to you how you want to handle that. Let's pick up from bar 5. Right there I do 5, 1, 2, 5, 4, 1. 2, 5, 4, 1. So watch out for this. This was a memory slip. This piece is also incredibly difficult to memorize because of the small changes with inversions and sometimes harmony changes, but a lot of times just the inversions. If I'm playing D sharp minor, am I going to go up to the F sharp or the A sharp or just stay on the D sharp Scriabin? It's a mixed bag here. It's not a consistent thing, so make sure to watch out for this. This was a memory slip for me for quite a while. My brain wanted to keep doing that same harmony. Make sure you go to this G sharp minor there. So it goes E sharp to G sharp and then D sharp to G sharp. So just watch out for that. The other pedal trick, to be completely transparent and honest with you guys, doing the holding through and then changing really quickly with the bass might be idealistic, to be honest, or hopeful. If you can just change the pedal really, really quickly. Because it's moving so quickly, I kind of lift the pedal here and just grab that rather than trying to hold this, change, do that. That works as long as you're catching your bass in the pedal. As I'm demonstrating with these slower tempos, I'm noticing sometimes I'm even chopping the pedal. So just be careful of that. Be careful of the memory here as well. It's tempting to know when it's single notes and when it's octaves, especially on that second page. It is not consistent at all. single note with a B, and I'd go to a 2. So even if it just takes your hand a second to reset, that's or like an eighth of a second to reset. And I like this to be bold, and then I like this to kind of sweeten a little bit. And even sweeter there. And then it comes back. So if you just barrel towards this, then there's no real variety. The only variety you're getting is this super low octave there, which does make it sound bigger. But if you set it up even more with a little diminuendo, set up the crescendo even more by doing a diminuendo previously. Sorry. It makes that return, that return of the main idea, even more bold. Okay, so. Okay, let's go slowly.